Okay. Um, so if we could just make sure that we're sitting nice and straight in our chairs, spine nice and straight, and just allow your body to relax. Just feel the weight of the body on your chair, the weight of your legs on your feet, and just leave your arms and hands in a relaxed position. And just be aware that there's nowhere you have to go, nothing you have to do. Just allow yourself to be present in your room, just relaxed, calm, and in tune with who you really are at the soul level. And we'll start off now with just a prayer, and then we'll start with the other exercises. Father, Mother God, we ask you to be present with us and help us to be aware of your presence. Sometimes we know that we lose track of that connection with you. Sometimes we allow the world to take over our thoughts and forget our connection. Help us to become aware of that connection, which is there all the time, day and night, awake and asleep. And help us to be aware of the guidance and the connection and the love that you bestow upon all of us. We are very grateful for that love. Amen. Okay, so if we could just start now with the head and neck exercises. I won't go through each one because I think we're all aware of what they are now. So I'll just do a round of the head and neck exercises. And now if we could do the breathing exercises. Now the first of the prayers of protection, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We might as well do an affirmation now. Not my will, but thine, O Lord, be done in me and through me. Let me ever be a channel of blessings, today, now, to those that I contact in every way. Let my going in, my coming out, be in accord with that thou would have me do. And as the call comes, here am I, send me, use me. And that's the affirmation from the Church for God chapter on cooperation. And now the second prayer of protection. As we open our hearts to the unseen forces that surround the throne of grace, beauty, and might, we throw about ourselves the protection found in the thought of the Christ. And if we could just go into the silence now for about 8 to 10 minutes. Would you end your meditations now, please? Bring your awareness back to your room. Father, Mother God, we ask that the healing energies that have been raised during our meditation may now go out to anyone in need of healing prayer, and especially to those who have no one else to pray for them. May they be brought the comfort that they desperately need at this time. Thank you, Father. And we conclude this meditation with the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Meditation is both more or less. One is introduction. Two, benefits of meditation. Three, what is meditation? Four, principles of creative meditation. Number one, introduction. In a book of essay entitled Meditation in Christianity is the following statement by Arpita. Meditation is a practical and simple method of spiritual practice that transcends era, culture, and religion. All the great religions of the world have utilized some method of meditation, each with its own identifying but not non-essential embellishments unique to the background of those who developed it. The meditative tradition itself is universal because the practice of meditation is an intrinsic aspect of human nature. In another essay in the same book, Swami Rama speaks particularly to the Christian tradition. Western Christians are not aware of an overlooked tradition, one in which meditation was taught widely. The meditative tradition of one time dominated early Christianity in the Middle East. After studying the history of the early Christians and the Desert Fathers, we know that they meditated day and night, and that meditation was not a new concept for them. In her book, Beyond TM, A Practical Guide to the Lost Traditions of Christian Meditation, Marilyn Morgan Helberg traces the thread of Christian meditation through the centuries, beginning with Jesus and his disciples, most notably John the Apostle Paul, possibly the first great mystic after Jesus, Augustine of the 4th and 5th centuries, Francis of Assisi, 12th and 13th centuries, Teresa of Avila, 16th century, the German cobbler mystic Jacob Bohm of the late 16th, early 17th centuries, George Fox, 17th century English founder of the Quakers, who taught his followers to listen for the still small voice within, and William Blake, the English poet mystic of the late 17th, early 18th centuries, whose prophetic writings resulted from the avowed communion with God. Number 2, benefits of meditation. In the meditative mind, the varieties of meditation experience, Daniel Goleman summarizes a number of remarkable physical and physiological effects of meditation and relaxation. Drop in blood pressure, relieves suffering from angina and arrhythmia, lowers blood cholesterol levels, and can enhance blood flow to the heart, enhance the immune function of the body. Diabetics can experience a lessening of the emotional reactions that often precede attacks. Asthmatics can experience improved flow in constricted air passages. Chronic pain patients can reduce their reliance on painkillers and lessen the level of pain. Other meditation research has demonstrated this wide range of psychological benefits: improvement in measurements of personality, decrease in neurotic tendencies, increase in psychic sensitivity, improvement in study efficiency and exam performance, increase in efficiency of problem solving, improvement in creativity in the visual arts, decrease in drug and alcohol abuse. Repeatedly in the Cayce readings, we find references to the extraordinary benefits of meditation. Of course, meditation helps self more than self can be aided in any other way. But if there is a definite period of manner of meditation, there may be had a balancing, and there may come an activity that will enable the body physical to snap out of these expressions, those depressions, those feelings of floating, those feelings of losing control, those feelings of the inability of concentration. The quicker way to overcome conditions of being overtired mentally and physically, the greater response physically and mentally, may be found by the perfect relaxation in meditation. As the person may experience in some of the moments of meditation, the finding of peace in self enables the person to give more assurance, more help to others. One of our principal goals of this life is to know ourselves and to understand our relationship to God. To know yourself, to be yourself, and yet one with God, is how Cayce expresses it repeatedly in the readings. Secondly, only to this goal is that of understanding our relationships to one another, often mentioned by Cayce through reference to Jesus' second great commandment: you shall love your neighbor as yourself, Matthew 22:39. The means to gain this understanding: meditation is the safest and surest way to understand ourselves. Number 3, what is meditation? From Joel Goldsmith on what meditation is, as we begin to recognize our good as the gift of God, we let the reasoning, thinking, planning mind relax. We listen for the still small voice, ever watchful for the Father within. It will never leave us nor forsake us. It is our permanent dispensation. This listening is the art of meditation, in the learning of which we come to a place of transition where truth leaves the mind and enters the heart. From the art of meditation. From Evelyn Underhill, meditation is a word which covers a considerable range of devotional states. It is perhaps most simply defined as thinking in the presence of God. It requires recollection, a deliberate gathering of ourselves together, a retreat into our own souls. From Kepler's The Evelyn Underhill Reader. From Swami Rama, the word meditation is used in various ways, but however it is used, it always refers to techniques that deal with one's inner nature. Through these techniques, one finally transcends all levels of the mind and goes on to Christ's consciousness and realization of the absolute one. Meditation does not require a belief in dogma or in any authority. It is an inward journey in which one studies one's own self on all levels and ultimately reaches the source of consciousness. The aim of meditation is self-realization, a direct vision of truth. It is not an intellectual pursuit, nor is it emotional rapture. One's whole being is involved. It is neither suppression, which makes one passive, nor is it the acquisition of any experience that is not already within us. Meditation leads one from want to wantlessness. It is a way of going from the known to the unknown. The process can hardly be explained by words, but it leads one from the personal to the transpersonal and finally unites one with the highest one. It transforms the whole personality. From Meditation in Christianity. I define prayer broadly as any communication with God and define meditation as a special form of prayer. This conception is also reinforced by many Cayce readings. Meditation is prayer, but it's prayer from within the inner self. Meditation is attuning the mental and physical forces of the body to the spiritual source. Meditation is participating in the spiritual vitalization of the energies of the bodily system. Meditation is emptying self of anything that hinders the inner creative forces from rising. Meditation is meeting and talking with God as if God were physically present. Meditation is listening to the divine within. My own experience with meditation leads me to conceptualize it in this way. I am urged by my inner self to maintain ongoing, direct contact with God through frequent prayer. I'm also urged to refresh my relationship with God daily in an extended prayer experience of meditation, a sort of daily appointment to meet God in a quiet place for an uninterrupted period. During that meditation period, I try to put aside everything physical and mental, and with the help of a spiritual focus, I try to tune myself in to her unending love and mercy and to his infinite wisdom and power. I must empty myself of anything that might block either the inflowing of creative energy or its flow within me. The attunement not only allows me to receive ideas and experiences directly from God, but it also quickens and revitalizes the creative forces already within me. Through this experience, I remain aware in human consciousness, yet am unaffected by my mental and physical states. Both the process of becoming attuned and the state of attunement itself contribute to a condition of inner calm and well-being that may be called being at one with life. The essence of this idea is caught in a word borrowed from the English mystic of the late 14th and early 15th centuries, Juliana of Norwich. Prayer wanted the soul to God. One eth, meaning makes us one. A simplified expression of meditation then becomes meditation wants me to God. Number 4, principles of creative meditation. First, why creative meditation? The term keeps visible excuse me, 4 essential features of meditation as presented in this book. Meditation leads to attunement with the creative forces that we call God, giving us total access to that source of infinite energy. Meditation also quickens the creative energy already within our own bodies. Meditation is in itself a creative process in that it can bring about physical changes within the body through the action of this law. The spirit is life, the mind is the builder, the physical is the result. The process of meditation is to be adapted creatively to your own needs, your own experience, and your own lifestyle, and it may be varied creatively as your interests and circumstances change, allowing you to grow with and through your meditative experiences. 7 principles underlie creative meditation. 1. Creative meditation is a state of being. Meditation is not a technique. Rather, it's the state achieved by the process through which an individual attunes himself or herself to God. A universal best technique or process does not exist. The case reading suggests that each of us must find the approach that serves our needs, since the activities of meditation are personal. No one can tell what will work for you in meditation any more than one may tell another how to fall in love. A major goal of this book is to guide you in your discovery of the meditation approach for you. Number 2, no special talent or innate ability is required for creative meditation, although it does require learning and practice. In one of the principal readings on meditation, Cayce says, "You must learn to meditate just as you have learned to walk, to talk." In The Art of Meditation, Joel Goldsmith reminds us that things worthwhile deserve the time they require. Meditation is a difficult art to master. Therefore, even though we seem to feel no response, let us not become discouraged. To expect immediate results from the practice of meditation would be the same as expecting to play Bach or Beethoven after the first musical lesson. Number three, the goal of creative meditation is spiritual, and a spiritual focus is essential to the attunement process. Our three-part nature, spiritual, mental, and physical, and the law, the spirit is life, the mind is the builder, the physical is the result, make it essential that the spiritual element be included in creative meditation. Admittedly, individuals may have a spiritual meditation experience without consciously addressing the spiritual element. However, the spiritual focus, coupled with prayer for protection, helps to ensure that the meditative state is reached safely and that the meditator remains under God's protection in that state. Number four, creative meditation is a state in which the meditator has direct access to and communication with God and God's infinite resources. The goal is attunement, which is attunement to the creative forces which are God. Once attunement is made, communication may take many forms and results beyond at oneness may be realized. Everything is available through this channel as suggested in this reading. 4. Thy body is indeed the temple of the living God. There he has all knowledge, all undertakings, all wisdom, all understanding, may commune with thee if ye but give that opportunity. He stands continually at the door of thy consciousness, of thy heart. If you will open, he will enter. Number 5. The creative meditator develops and regularly practices a variety of meditative forms and actions, ranging from the momentary to the extended. Meditation will be effective only when it is done mindfully, rather than mindlessly or by rote. Variety in form and action helps to prevent mindlessness and boredom in meditation. Also, conditions of daily life vary in how accessible meditation can be, so methods must permit accommodation to the circumstances. Number 6, creative meditation is integrated into all phases of life experience. Its foundation is a regular extended prayer experience during a scheduled period once a day. In addition, meditative actions are recommended for use throughout the day for reconnection to God even momentarily. The variety of meditative forms associated with the preceding principle facilitate this integration. Number 7, creative meditation is first directed to attunement with God without expectations of benefits. The resources of God are then accessible for self-knowledge, self-guidance, and self-healing. The primary goal of meditation is always attunement rather than to obtain something from God or through God's help. Once attunement is attained without conditions imposed by the meditator, then God's resources are truly available. That concludes my reading for tonight.
It's creative meditation, what counts in your life. And I just put ideals. So ideals is probably the third lesson in the Search for God book. So this book touches into it. So working with ideals. Number one, how we measure our lives. Ideals as the measures of our lives. 3, seeking the spiritual ideal. 4, mental and physical ideals. And then the last one, 5, affirming ideals, which is affirmations. So we'll start with 1, how we measure our lives. So our finances and other physical assets like homes, cars, clothes, furnishings weigh heavily in how we perceive our state of well-being. They seem to be what counts in life. Consequently, many of us measure our status in life and the status of others by yardsticks of income and assets. So other popular yardsticks are those that gauge prestige and power through what kinds of jobs people hold, who their friends and acquaintances are, and what their social standing is. We may also measure our lives in terms of our health and fitness, our talents and abilities, our knowledge, and our material accomplishments. So we begin to take control of our lives when we set standards grounded in our own well-considered values and priorities, our own sense of purpose in life, our own ideals. Furthermore, our inner sense of well-being, the feeling of being at one with life, will be more readily achieved when we put those ideals in their spiritual form at the center of our meditative work. So in the reading here, in just what environment will I find the greatest opportunity for service, success, and happiness? The answer depends upon what is the measure of success set in the ideal for the body. What is thine ideal? Then there may be set as to what may be the measure of success and happiness and pleasure and joy in that field of activity. So what is success in one's life if there is no standard, no vision, no ideal in which to measure one's success? Therefore, the statement of the ideal carries within it the yardstick for success and for joy and happiness and peace. And number 2, ideal as the measure of our lives. No concept from the Cayce reading is more important or useful than that of the ideal and its spiritual, mental, and physical counterparts. Ideals make it easy to answer the question, what counts in life? And the answer may be that which measures up to our ideals. Cayce himself says the most important experience of this or any individual is to first know what is the ideals spiritually. A systematic focus on ideals, purposes, and motives leads to a measurable shift in how one views the world. Problems may not go away immediately, but there is a greater sense that the power to shape one's life comes largely from within. Edgar Cayce selects words and phrases suited to the individual he is addressing in his definition of ideals. This gives an elastic, elusive quality to the concept of ideal, one that leaves room for each of us to adjust the idea to our personal needs and circumstances. So what is an ideal? That not made with hands, that is eternal. That is an ideal. An ideal is something to look up to or to attempt to attain to, not an idea that I may do this or I may do that, that I may accomplish such and such through such modes of operation, for then one reaches the goal. First, know what is thy own ideal, not as to what others may do for thee, but what is the ideal way of individuals to live among themselves. So what is my ideal? And the answer, that the body must set itself. The body knows within self that which it holds as the criterion for every developing life from that it holds as its ideal. Then whatever is set in self, the body should work toward, and the results will be in keeping with that activity. If the body set the ideal only in making the material success, it may not expect to be content, nor will it bring happiness. If the body's ideal is set in that which is right in the sight of its ideal, or by the measurements of that it holds as its criterion, as its ideal, that it will develop to, that must be set by self. Number 3, seeking the spiritual ideal. The spiritual ideal is a personal standard for our lives that can be expressed at several levels of abstraction, from the lofty to the lowly, from the inspirational to the perspirational, and from the universal ideal to the lifetime ideal, and then to the working level ideal. So the universal spiritual ideal. Every human being, according to Cayce, has the ultimate spiritual ideal of oneness with God, attaining perfection in soul development that allows the soul to return to God from whence it originally came, and to remain in and with God as God's companion and even co-creator. So at the most exalted level, the soul level, each of us has the universal ideal of oneness with God. 2, the lifetime spiritual ideal. So while oneness with God is your ultimate spiritual ideal, your soul self has chosen a single element of oneness as a kind of theme for your present life. It is the focus of the lessons you have decided to learn in this experience. So consider oneness with God as a fantastic diamond cut with hundreds of sparkling spiritual facets such as love, peace, service, cooperation, and justice. So your soul self has chosen one of those facets as your lifetime spiritual ideal. This lifetime ideal, which is always operating in your life, can often be identified by looking for the deep inner motivation that impels you toward your most inspired efforts. Such a spiritual quality becomes an underlying theme for your life, even if you don't recognize or acknowledge it. How much more you can be at peace with yourself and at one with the universe when you bring this lifetime ideal to the surface and work with it consciously in your life. And the third, the working level spiritual ideal. So the spiritual ideal, including mental and physical ideals, is to be used as a spiritual focus for your meditation, a yardstick for your life. Therefore, actively working with your ideal requires you to relate to it, to the activities and choices of your daily life. Even though your lifetime spiritual ideal is more specific than oneness with God, it may still be hard to relate to every part of your life. For example, if your ideal is justice, can you relate that to decisions about a relationship? To enhance the meaningfulness of your ideal, you may choose to express your lifetime spiritual ideal at a more specific level, that is, a working level spiritual ideal. So, for example, the lifetime ideal of love may be focused on the quality of non-expectation, and that is unconditional love. The lifetime ideal of justice might become a working level ideal of fairness and honesty. So the working level ideal can be helpful in another critical way. You may not be able to identify your lifetime spiritual ideal. Instead, you can choose a working level spiritual ideal that seems to ring true for you. Use it as if it were a reflection of your lifetime ideal. Circumstances may lead you to adjust it or even change it to another facet that seems more applicable to your life. So when you modify your ideal, keep a record of your changes. Eventually, you may perceive a pattern among the working level ideals that identifies your lifetime ideal. In a sense, you follow the same principle even when you think you have identified your lifetime ideal. You use your experience with the working level ideals to verify and confirm it, or to make adjustments accordingly. As the circumstances in your life change, you may find it desirable to focus on another aspect of your lifetime spiritual ideal, or simply to restate your working level ideal. So, for example, a lifetime ideal of the Christ pattern may have led you to a working level ideal of loving patience, especially appropriate where family members were all living at home, you were working in a business setting, and you were involved in many outside activities. So when these circumstances change, you may want to choose another aspect of the Christ pattern as your working level ideal. So, for example, gentleness or kindness. So how do you make the spirituality ideal even more tangible and relevant in your life? So how do you focus it on a specific issue or activity where you experience frequent challenges? How does it guide your attitudes and actions? The answer to all three of these questions is by means of mental ideals and physical ideals, which are derived from the spiritual ideal. After you have identified your spiritual ideal, at least a tentative version of it, we will discuss and illustrate the usefulness of mental and physical ideals. So please refer to the book for the exercise on how to create a spiritual ideal. And number 4, mental and physical ideals. As you would expect from our freeform nature, our spiritual ideals have counterparts in the mental and physical dimensions of our lives. Mental and physical ideals help guide you in day-to-day experiences to act in accordance with your spiritual ideal. In essence, they are the stepping stones in your mental and physical actions that allow you to reach toward your spiritual ideal. Mental ideals are expressions of your spiritual ideal in your mental activities, such as your thoughts, attitudes, emotions, ideas, and plans. For example, if your spiritual ideal is peace, your mental ideas will also relate to peace, but there will be guidelines for specific mental activities. For example, catching your attitudes of anger and impatience before they erupt into non-peaceful words or actions, or looking for peaceful qualities in others you meet. The physical ideals are expressions of your spiritual ideal in your words and actions. So, for example, if your physical ideals relates to peace, as in the mental ideals, there will then be guidelines for your spoken words and physical actions. For example, not participating in arguments or expressing appreciation to others for their peaceful activities, and such as resolving an argument amicably. We will consider a detailed illustration of the relationships among these 3 types of ideals and how they are used as guidelines and yardsticks in our lives. To make the example easier to follow, let's look at a method for recording and displaying our ideals. So one way of expressing all 3 dimensions of our ideals is in a 3-column format, suggested by Edgar Cayce himself. The spiritual ideal in the left column, the mental ideals in the center column, and the physical ideals at the right. So I copied this ideals worksheet from online somewhere. So the most important experience of this or any individual entity is to first know what is the ideal spiritually. So that's one format of putting down your ideals. The other way, so another approach that helps you keep the spiritual ideal at the center, literally, uses 3 concentric circles like a target with a bull's eye. So the spiritual ideal is written in the bull's eye. So the spiritual ideal in the center here is love. And then the mental ideals are written in the ring immediately outside of the bull's eye. So the mental ideal is the second ring from the center. And the physical ideals are written in the outer ring. And they can be divided into four sections: self, spouse, job, and neighbor. You can change that as well. So we'll look at one example here, example of an ideals chart that uses this. So right at the center here is the spiritual ideal of justice or fairness and honesty. And he's divided it into 4 sections: household responsibilities. Cameron, it might be his friend. Community agency board responsibilities, maybe that's where he volunteers or works. And Catherine could be his wife. So the center bullseye is the spirituality of justice, fairness, and honesty. And then the second ring around it is the mental ideals, which he needs to work on mentally. And then the third ring outside is the physical ideal, the words and actions that are put into phrases. So if you read each one of those, there are things that that person has to focus on physically. So that's just an example. So the last one, number 5, affirming ideals, affirmations. Virtually all meditation approaches use some point of focus for the mind in the early part of the stillness period. In fact, the retraining of attention through such a focus is one of the most fundamental requirements for any meditative technique. Creative meditation requires the use of a spiritual focus in the process of becoming attuned. Furthermore, attunement may be facilitated if the spiritual focus is personalized. That is, if it represents one's own spiritual ideal. Although the ideal is not the only spiritual focus you will experiment with later, it should remain your home-based focus. One of the most useful ways of working with your spiritual ideal is through the affirmation of your ideal. So an affirmation is the first step in applying the law which begins, the spirit is the life. In some traditions, an affirmation is a phrase or statement declaring that the stated principle or idea exists, it's already accomplished, or is taking place right now. So for example, if my spiritual ideal is peace, I might affirm simply, as I live peace, it fills the world. Or for an ideal of loving patience, I have the loving patience I need for today. Throughout the Cayce readings are many affirmations on a wide range of ideals and other qualities. Some take the form of requests, petitions, or supplications. Not my will, but thine, O Lord, be done in and through me, and let virtue and understanding be in me, and make me more aware of God is love. Either or both kinds of affirmations, accomplished facts, and petitions are appropriate in meditation and can be used according to your preference and to the situation being affirmed. One of Cayce's instructional readings on the meditation process for the prayer healing group says that if the affirmation takes the form of the meditator's own ideal, then the meditator may enter through it into the very presence of that which is the creative force from within itself. The ideal as affirmation becomes an open door, a channel, through which the meditator may more readily reach attunement with the creative forces which are God. I encourage you to use the ideal as affirmation frequently in your meditations. The ideal as affirmation may be contained in a single word or short phrases by which you identify your ideal, unelaborated by other words. When we go a step further, the ideal as affirmation need not even use words, especially if we are trying to quiet the verbal, logical, left brain part of our consciousness. We may use a picture or image, or we may simply work with an emotional feeling representing the essence of the ideal. Consider an ideal of patience, for example. Can you find within yourself a feeling, image, or a picture that will represent the ultimate feeling of loving patience? As you may have already experienced, there is sometimes a tendency to focus on other matters in the early stages of meditation. Thoughts we cannot lay aside, desires for certain meditation experiences, body signals. So focusing on the ideal as an affirmative statement, as a meaningful word or phrase, as a feeling, not only creates favorable conditions for attunement, but also helps the meditator stay focused and screen out distractions, further facilitating attunement. So reiterating the theme of this chapter, the ideal keeps you directed in meditation toward what really counts in your life. The Cayce readings include many special purpose affirmations, some given for individuals with specific needs, others given for groups for general use in spiritual attunement. Many of those affirmations, often several sentences long, include phrases useful for individual ideal as affirmations. So, for example, in A Search for God, Book 1 on the Lesson of Patience, the following affirmation is used, which is adapted from the first 2 verses of the letter to the Hebrews. How gracious is thy presence in the earth, O Lord. Be thou the guide, that we with patience may run the race which is set before us, looking to thee, the author, the giver of light. An individual with the ideal of patience might adopt part of this affirmation for personal use. For example, I have the patience to run the race set before me. Lord, be my guide. To give renewed meaning to our ideals from time to time, we can review some of the affirmations from the Cayce readings to adopt ideas from them for our own affirmations. You can use an affirmation for many meditations. Write at least one affirmative statement representing your spiritual ideal. Choose words that have these qualities. They are comfortable to you. You may not want to skip the these and thous, for example. 2, they are easy to say aloud of silently and may even be rhythmic in their arrangement. I live my life with patience. Has a simple beat, for example. And 3, you are likely to remember the words. You may find it helpful to develop several affirmations and write them on cards for ease of reference during meditation or for carrying in your purse or wallet. As an example, you can use your spiritual ideal or your ideal as affirmation in your meditation practice in place of the word love. In those meditations, you may get feelings of confirmation about your ideal, or words may come to you that suggest a rewording of your ideal or even a different ideal. Keep yourself open to possible guidance on adjusting your ideal, but don't be hasty about switching to a different ideal. The first and most essential key to create a meditation is now within your reach in the forms of your spiritual ideal and your ideal as affirmation. Your opportunities to recognize and affirm what counts in your life. That's the end of what counts in your life, the ideals. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Wonderful.
There was a lot there to
Mm.
grasp.
Very interesting indeed. It just while you were reading that, Keith, it
Yeah,
reminds me in life coaching. You know,
yeah,
I'm a life coach.
yeah.
In life coaching, I will liken that to the value drivers. The
Yeah.
value drivers are the things that I hold on to as my life principles, so that it's like a barometer that if let's say security is important to me, and the things that I do or the things that people do to me violates that value driver,
Mm,
then I am not aligned, and it creates problems for myself. Whereas if everything that I think, say, and do provides me with the security, which is one of my value drivers,
mm,
then I am aligned.
mm.
There's no problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've had a look at because I've read some self-help books and what you're saying, yeah, the values. But when you were talking, I was thinking how we all everything aligns all towards God, you know. It in the end, it's all we are doing everything towards one man or achievement to God,
Mm. Yep.
and
It
that's
leads to one road, doesn't it? It's
yes,
leading to one road. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And you know what really fascinates me is when you suggested doing this Sunday studies about meditation,
yeah,
it is a pleasant surprise to me now, because the longer we do it, I just realized that it's not just all about the techniques of meditation, but
mm,
really, how do I reach that one meant with
mm,
God?
Yes.
because I have to look into my ideals. I have to look into the things that are important to me. Because if I am clean inside, then I think it's easier or simpler for me to be led to the road of being one with God.
That's it.
Mm.
And we take others with us towards. It's like we're dragging our family, our friends, to this.
To this path.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
No, I could. Yes, so that's quite handy for search for God, the search for God ideals. That could be used as well in the lesson 3. The way that Richardson, Peterson, he must have. I don't know how he created this book, but it's an amazing book. So it's a knowledge of all the ARE's information that's all put into this one book. He synthesized it. Yeah, so it's amazing.
In a very practical way as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exercise in it. I took out the exercise part because otherwise it would have been take us a bit long. So that's why I just thought, if you want to look into it, then you can look into it. Okay.
I'll go back to the ideals workshop and have another look at that. And,
Yes. Yeah. It's quite amazing that I didn't realize that you're like 3 levels. The what was the lifetime one is the second one, then the
working
level, and then the highest one is the ultimate.
Yeah, I hadn't read that one before either. I hadn't those 3 levels, but they make good sense, it makes good sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Exploring stillness from the Richard Peterson book, Creative Meditation, Inner Peace is Practically Yours. The heart of the meditative process is simple to describe, being completely still in body and mind while attuning our consciousness to God. Reaching and holding the stillness, however, is not simple to experience. Our bodies and especially our minds object to stillness. That's true. The stillness is the state of consciousness you experience from the time you begin your spiritual focus until the time you begin to emerge from meditation. You may experience more than one state of consciousness during this period of stillness. Stillness in creative meditation has 2 stages. The second, a deeper meditative state than the first. Stage 1, concentration. The mind focuses on the spiritual ideal or concept to the exclusion of everything else. The focus acts as a path to the presence of God. Stage 2, mindfulness. After release of the focus, the mind remains alert, undistracted by body, mind, or surroundings, but not focused on any object, word, or idea. Strong spiritual feelings may be experienced, such as love and joy. In this stage, we experience attunement with God. Stage 1, concentration. The body is relaxed and your mind is relatively free of thoughts and other distractions. You concentrate on your spiritual focus and the feelings that correspond to it. This is the first stage of stillness, often referred to as concentration, one-pointedness of thought. During this stage, the mind itself relaxes and is emptied of thoughts and concerns and ideas about everything other than the spiritual focus. The spiritual nature of the focus helps to direct the mind and spirit of the meditator toward God, especially if the focus is a spiritual ideal. Stage 2, mindfulness. When the spiritual focus has served its purpose as a path to God, it is set aside and the second stage of stillness begins, mindfulness. As the meditator's awareness becomes more internal, a shift in consciousness may be perceived. The mind remains alert, undistracted by body, thought, or surroundings, not focused on any idea, word, or image, although the feeling of the affirmation may continue. This state is often referred to as a deeper stage of meditation, suggesting that the meditator is more deeply turned inward, more removed from the surface of immediate surroundings. In this stage of mindfulness, we commune with God without words or images, but through feelings and pure spirit. The message of our communication may be that of joy, wonder, thankfulness, trust, and love. This is the state of attunement. From his study of meditational techniques, Daniel Goleman differentiates between these two states: concentration, mindfulness. In concentration, the meditation's attentional strategy is to fix the focus on a single precept, constantly bringing the wandering mind back to this object. The essence of concentration is non-distractedness. Purification is the systemic pruning away of sources of distraction. Now the meditator's work is to attain unification of mind, one-pointedness. Control of the senses comes through cultivating the habit of simply noticing sensory perceptions, not allowing them to stimulate the mind into thought chains of reaction. Mindfulness is the attitude of paying sensory stimuli only, let me move that one, only on the barest stimuli, only the barest attention. Meister Eckhart defines the boundary to deep meditation and the presence of God in terms of our ability to empty ourselves. There, where clinging to things ends, is where God begins to be. If a cask to contain wine is to contain wine, you must first pour out the water. The cask must be bare and empty. Therefore, if you wish to receive divine joy and God, first pour out your clinging to things. Everything that is to receive must and ought to be empty. From Fox's Meditations with Master Eckhart. One of Cayce's readings addresses the hesitation some people experience as they approach mindfulness, the reluctance to let go of the comfortable, mentally directed state of concentration. In answering a question about the individual's feelings during meditation, Cayce says, more oft it is the fear of letting go, or at others the interference from without, from fear. Yet by the surrounding of self with the Christ, the loving Son's consciousness, this will be taken away, and the joy of knowing ye are a channel of blessing will enter in. Perhaps no two meditators have exactly the same kinds of experience in the stillness, and yet some similarities are reported by many. The gradual movement in consciousness that leads to descriptive words like sinking, moving away, going deeper inward, detaching from surroundings and freeing my mind. The pleasant, sometimes ecstatic, often spiritual feelings that suffuse your whole being and get labelled as profound silence, exquisite peace, the experience of God, and a world filled with love. Retraining the attention. Daniel Goleman's study of many meditative approaches leads him to conclude that the need to train attention is the single invariant ingredient in the recipe for altering consciousness of every meditation system. Can we train ourselves to be one-pointed, to concentrate on one thing at a time? Yes, and we can do it outside of meditation periods. You can approach ultimate one-pointedness through two intermediate steps, through practicing the nowness of an activity and through practicing sensory focus in an activity. 1, the nowness of present activity. When I am engaged engaged in one activity, whether chosen by me, by someone else, or by accident, I try to keep my attention on that activity, finding things to enjoy, refraining from thoughts about other activities and other places. In other words, I focus my full attention, mentor myself to this activity, so I give it my best effort, knowing it is just the right activity for me at the moment. I invest my feeling self as well as my mental self in the activity instead of just going through the motions. The sensory focus. A sensory focus experience can be readily created for any restricted physical activity, working on a weight machine, stationary bicycle, or other exerciser as examples. It also works for activities like jogging, running, and walking. You might even try it while scrubbing the floor on your hands and knees, washing windows, or folding laundry. Exercises like leg lifts, sit-ups, and running in place are good candidates for sensory focus experiences. In meditation itself, observing your breathing is a limited form of sensory focus. Practicing nowness and sensory focus on a variety of activities outside of a meditation period can make a noticeable contribution to your attention focus during meditation. You may even find yourself practicing these attention skills for their own sake, for the contribution they make to your enjoyment of the focus activities themselves. Dealing with distractions. For most people, distractions will gradually diminish if you don't give them any attention. Because they are such a common phenomenon, many meditative writers report how they deal with distractions. Brother Lawrence, in The Practice of the Presence of God, cautions us, if your mind sometimes wanders or withdraws from the Lord, do not be upset or disquieted. Trouble and disquiet serve more to distract the mind further from God than to recollect it. The will must bring the mind back in tranquility. If you persevere in this manner, the Lord will have pity on you. Cayce's readings on meditation frequently remind us that the physical and especially the mental conditions we take with us into meditation will seriously influence what happens during that period. For example, in one of the basic readings on meditation, he says that some individuals have so overshadowed themselves by abuses of their mental attributes as to make scars rather than the mark, so that only an imperfect image of the spiritual ideal held as a focus may be raised within themselves, that may rise no higher than the arousing of the carnal desires within the individual body. To me, this says that the negative or destructive thinking and attitudes outside of meditation, abuse of mental attributes, create mental obstacles, scars, which prevent such individuals from being able to focus on the spiritual ideal, the mark, and instead material world thoughts and feelings, carnal desires, will interfere with meditation. Thus, many readings stress the importance of cleansing the mind and body before attempting to meditate, as well as performing other preparatory steps to get the physical and mental conditions into a state favourable for meditation and less prone to distraction. In your next meditation period, consider a gentle approach that includes at least these 2 steps. When a distracting thought or image draws your attention, acknowledge its presence with the idea, not now, thank you, come back after meditation. Give it no more attention, watch it drift away as you refocus on the words or feelings of your spiritual ideal. Recapture its essence, letting it fill your whole mind. When you feel centered on it, release the words again, concentrating on the feeling. Other meditation experiences in the stillness. Through meditation, we are seeking the feelings and emotions of being at one with life and with God. Most such experiences are at the emotional level: serenity, awe, wonder, faith, trust, and love. Love, for example. Along with that sense of oneness, some meditators have other physical, mental, and spiritual experiences during the stillness, none of which is a goal of creative meditation. Since experiences do occur, usually unbidden, the meditator needs to know what can occur and how to react to such experiences. As we alter our state of consciousness through meditation, we undergo several normal physiological changes. For example, we are lowering our brainwave rate from the normal waking beta frequency range to the lower frequencies of alpha or theta waves. Another desired effect of meditation is the increased flow of energy through a series of spiritual centers associated with the endocrine glands. We might well expect that some of these physiological changes would be accompanied by bodily sensations or experiences perceived by the meditator. However, most of them are undetectable to meditators much of the time. Acceptable inner experiences in the form of visualizations may result from our mental set as we go into meditation, a kind of special image we associate with the stillness. Done often enough, this visualization becomes an habitual experience in meditation. Some meditators have occasional disturbing negative experiences in meditation. You need to know a little about them, especially how to prevent them. As you are attuning yourself to God, your vibrations may attract patterns of thought and energy which are not useful to you and which may in fact be distracting or even unsettling to you. These thought and energy patterns have been created by others, living and dead, through their misuse or abuse of God's energy, which is normally biased towards good. To reduce the likelihood of your having such encounters, you can protect yourself with prayer that shields you from negative influences. For example, this prayer is adapted from the Cayce material. As I approach the throne of grace, beauty, and might, I throw around myself the protection found in the thought of the Christ. In summary, consider 3 cautions about meditation experiences. The meditator should not anticipate or try to achieve any specific experience in meditation other than being in the presence of God or being at one with life. Helpful visualizations may be exceptions to this. 2, if unusual experiences occur, even if they are pleasant or awe-inspiring, the meditator should not hold on to them nor give them special value or attention. They may distract from the spiritual goal of meditation, attunement with God. 3, the meditator should regularly pray for protection early in the meditation process. A Cayce-based prayer was suggested earlier. An alternative is a prayer to be surrounded with a protective golden light. And that's the end of the presentation.
Father, Mother God, we give thanks for the inspiration that led to this evening's presentations. We give thanks for all the information that came through not only Edgar Cayce, but all the other luminaries in this field of meditation that shared so much knowledge through their books, through their work, that we may be the beneficiaries of getting a deeper understanding of how to communicate with Thee through prayer, through meditation. And we give thanks for gaining an understanding of how to deepen our meditation periods and how to work with distractions, how to work with setting ideals, that we may grow in our purposes, grow in our work with others. As we go about our daily life, knowing that as things get on top of us, as we get overwhelmed, we can step aside figuratively as just to communicate with you just for a few seconds or minutes, to settle our minds, to settle our bodies, to settle our hearts, to know that we are one with Thee always. Amen.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.